Hello, Washington, and today we are going to address the elephant in the room. Well, more like donkey, but you know what I'm saying. So let's get right into it. Today's donkey we are going to address goes by the name of Attorney General Bob Ferguson. Good old Bob Ferguson has been Attorney General here in Washington State since 2012. Now with the governor's race coming up, he decided to finally throw his hat into the game. Now, for us, that doesn't spell a lot of good news, considering he is besties with Jay Inslee.
What is that?
Which, if you know anything about Jay Inslee, that is a bad sign. So today we are going to address some things in Mr. Ferguson's past that are a little unsavory and kind of put a, let's call it a red flag in his run for governor. Maybe like more than one red flag, but we'll get there. So today we're going to talk about some of his lawsuits, some of his tax proposals, and a few of his current controversies he has going on right now. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I want to start off with a lawsuit that he filed back in 2001. Now this lawsuit is interesting because a native tribe filed a lawsuit against the state. Now this tribe wanted to keep their culverts in order to grow salmon. Now, I don't see anything wrong with that, and neither did the state. So the lower courts decided, hey, you guys can actually keep your culverts, that's fine. Now, step in Attorney General Bob Ferguson, and he decides, I'm gonna actually take these people to the Supreme Court. That sounds like a good idea. So he takes the native tribe to the Supreme Court, and in a 4-4 split decision, the Supreme Court decides the native tribe is still correct. So they actually got to keep their culverts. And guess what? Mr. Ferguson spent what was estimated up to $7.3 billion to take this case to the Supreme Court. That's insane. Like, they already won. The lower courts already said, hey, you're good. But no, he had that itch. Man is pretty trigger happy when it comes to litigation, I would say. Now, the reason why I picked the 2001 lawsuit of the Native Americans first is because it goes to show the hypocritical values that Attorney Bob Ferguson actually has. Now today, when you go onto his website, you can find a section, and it specifically says now that he partners with tribes to protect salmon and protect tribal sovereignty from legal attacks waged by Republican attorney generals. I guess we could have used Bob Ferguson to go after Bob Ferguson when Bob Ferguson was going after the natives in 2001 with legal attacks. But now he wants to be all buddy-buddy with them? Now I understand changing your mind. We all grow and change, but that's just egregious. You took them all the way to the Supreme Court. You took them all the way to the Supreme Court after the lower courts decided that they won. And now, decades later, you're on their side and want to stop attorney generals going after them now? Seems just a little hypocritical to me. Just saying. Okay. Let's look at another lawsuit, shall we? In 2017, Donald Trump had proposed a travel ban. There were 7 different countries, which were mainly Muslim countries in the Middle East. There were a couple African countries thrown in there as well. At that time, a lot of opponents to this said that it was a specifically Muslim ban, which, no. It was a ban from current war-torn countries where people were fleeing, and it was so dangerous in those parts of the world that Donald Trump decided we can't have these people come in, which makes total sense. We would rather preserve our safety instead of bringing in a bunch of non-citizens and refugees to save them and help them. Anyway, with that being said, Bob Ferguson decided to sue Donald Trump. And unfortunately, he actually won. So he was able to get the travel ban stopped, and it was still legal for that to happen in Washington State. which for me, that just shows he's pro mass immigration. And right now, the last thing we need is more immigration, considering we have upwards to 10 million immigrants illegally in the country. We don't have enough resources in Washington State to provide any kind of help to mass immigrants. It just isn't reasonable. Now the third lawsuit. This one is kind of my personal favorite. For some reason, Mr. Fergie looked into Value Village and said, they say they're a charity.
I don't think that's true. Let me sue them.
I understand you're Attorney General, but geez, man. You had that much time you had to go after Value Village? Fortunately, he lost, and they maintain that they are a charity. Now, for good measure, I would like to throw in his assault weapons ban. As we know, assault weapon bans make no sense. There's no such thing as an assault weapon. Anything can be an assault weapon. He also said he banned military-style weapons. The average citizen isn't allowed to have military-style weapons. It's already illegal to have automatic guns. These people call AR rifles military-style weapons because it's big and scary. What I don't understand is why don't we ever talk about handguns? More crime is committed with handguns than any rifle and big scary military gun combined. You can conceal a handgun more. You can have more of them. It's the number one gun for crime. And more gun death is actually due to suicide than murder. So if you're really going to address the issue about gun crime, let's talk about the actual guns that do the majority of the actual killing. Now, I'm not a proponent for banning guns whatsoever. I think we should be allowed to have whatever we want. But if you're going to go after the guns and make a big deal about it, how about let's get honest about it and talk about the real guns that are committing the real crimes and addressing the root problems, such as mental health, gang activity, fatherless homes, things of those sort. Let's start with the actual problem. But no, go after the rifles because they're big and scary. Whatever, man. Yay, tax time! Let's talk about how Bob Ferguson likes to spend your money. This one's gonna be kind of rapid fire, I think. Honestly, how much more money do you need, Bob Ferguson? Currently, Bob Ferguson wants to implement 2 brand new taxes that will hurt your pockets. The first tax he wants to implement is going to be a carbon tax, which will increase the cost of gas prices for everybody. Everybody is already struggling to get gas right now. $3, $4, $5 somewhere right now. Why in the world does Bob Ferguson see the need to add a carbon tax? It's just more environmental crap. Nobody cares, man. Everybody just wants to have a car and gas that they can afford to get to and from work. Nobody wakes up and thinks, oh man, how am I gonna help the environment today? Let me just spend more on gas. No, you're not discouraging people from buying gas. Everybody has a gas car. Nobody has an electric car. Okay, not nobody, exaggerating. But the majority does not have an electric car. The point of this is to force people into getting electric cars. Bull. I'm not traveling cross country with a Tesla. Sorry, I got big plans, baby. I want to see the world. You're not making me get an electric car. If I gotta go get 100 red gas cans and store them somewhere so I have them and start my own gas company, well, man, I think I will. Thank you. He also proposed a capital gains tax, which will hurt small business and investors. So if you are a small business making more than $350,000 and you invest, guess what? You're getting taxed even more. Yes, we made it to the best section. Current Bob Ferguson. So there are 4 opposing initiatives that Let's Go Washington has been working to get onto the ballot in November. two of his biggest donors filed lawsuits against the Secretary of State, stating that there were issues with the signatures. Now, what I find interesting about this is the conflict of interest. The worst part is, Bob Ferguson's office never told anybody, any of the writers of these initiatives, Let's Go Washington, nobody, that he had a case against these initiatives. Let's Go Washington only found out 2 hours before they were going to throw these initiatives out that they were in the Supreme Court. So nobody knew up until the very last minute. Conflict of interest. I would say having somebody who has ethical problems such as that makes me a little worried about them becoming governor. From what I see, Attorney General Bob Ferguson likes to throw his power around a lot. And to me, that gives me a worry for him being governor. What is to stop him from going after private citizens for committing acts that aren't illegal, but acts that he just doesn't like, where he decides, I'm going to sue this person? What's to stop him from continuing on raising taxes? He already wants to tax gas. He already wants to take your natural gas away. This man wants to take, and never give. Washington, please, wake up, sign the initiatives, vote Republican this year. Let's change Washington State for the better. Thank you.